Hello everyone, welcome to the live stream and welcome in Fart Sack Jack right on time today, or a little bit early today. I did want to say I have a postcard of the week that I'm going to show in a second because it seemed like last week people liked that, so I picked another one this week. I was going to get a few from my personal collection. I'll probably do that in the future, but this week I was running a little short on time, so I just looked at one that had sold last week, but it's still a really good card. I did want to say too that everyone who requested cat postcards, so let me just grab them actually. Or one. So I haven't sent anybody's cat postcards yet. I know Fart Sack Jack wanted one and a few others. I got some the other day, so but they're not correct unfortunately. So I'm having them reprinted. They're reprinting it free of charge since it was kind of a mistake on their end. But what happened was the back, I don't know if you can even really see it, but yeah, you can kind of see it right there, but the glossy coating got put on the back instead of the front. So I have a ton of these that I'll end up putting them on or in eBay orders eventually. But for everybody that requested one, I just wanted to give you an update in case you were wondering why I hadn't sent them out yet. But I've got everybody that requested one. I have your information, so I'll send those out as soon as I get the new batch, the corrected batch, which should be maybe later this week or early next week. They said they should ship tomorrow, so yeah, probably by the end of this week or early next week. Fishing Trip says, hey Daniel. Paul said eBay is on fire this month, over 4K already. Nice. Yeah, over 4K on the 8th of the month is great. That's basically 4K in 1 week. Nancy said, hello, hello. Sorry I missed last week. The vid YouTube says is last week. Appears to be the week before, so I have not watched yet. Yeah, I don't know. If you go to the live tab on my channel, it should show them to you in order. So, yeah, I don't know why it would be showing you the one from 2 weeks ago. Fartsack Jackson, and don't forget that giant box of postcards you don't want when you send the kitty card. Oh yeah, that big box of, I think it was nothing but Street View real photos that I just wanted to get rid of. Was looking for somebody to take off my hands. Megan said, thank you so much for your help with those holiday postcards. Oh yeah, no problem. And since we got, a good few people here already, I'm going to go ahead and do the postcard of the week. If I can, let me make sure I turn my, okay. Ooh, I did not turn my volume off. Uh, I get a double feedback loop where because I have the video of myself up on the other screen to make sure, nothing's going wrong. So, sometimes I forget to turn the audio off. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, this is the postcard of the week this week. And it's one, I picked it, I want to pick, really unique ones. And this one just wasn't the ordinary picture of a train car. It did sell for full price, $49.95. I think the same day I listed it, and I also listed it pretty high because Kenmare, North Dakota did not have a good selling history at all. A lot of the smaller towns in North Dakota and South Dakota I don't really have good luck with, so that was one of those towns. But why I think this one sold for so much was because on the train, actually, I don't know if this was written on the negative or on the train itself. I think it's on the train. Actually, I don't know. Maybe it's on the negative. Yeah, probably on the negative. But I don't know if they're, campaigning for anything in this picture, but they wrote on it 8 work, sleep, free time. So I put in the title labor movement question mark because I think in the early 1900s, I don't know if it was like a combination of legislation or I know there were unions or a lot of unions that formed around that time. And 8 hours of work, 8 hours of sleep, and 8 hours of free time was like a big, I don't know, kind of a labor movement at the time. So I think that's why this one sold for so much, is because it kind of had the political connection there. But let me know if you know any more than I do. I didn't do a ton of research into it, but that's just what I think based on my limited knowledge of the labor movement of the early 1900s. But I thought it was really cool, and somebody else thought it was too, because it sold for a lot more than any other Kenmare North Dakota cards were going for. But if you do want to collect great real photo cards, maybe think about North Dakota and South Dakota because a lot of those are really affordable, it appears. Okay, that's the postcard of the week. I will try to remember to do one every week. I'm going to try to do some too that aren't just cards I sold, but cards in my collection. I have a lot of really nice cards in my collection too, so I'll just mix it up a little bit. Christina says, hi everyone. Hi, Christina. Yes, those. Yeah, where is it behind me? I forget which box I put all those in. I would think a mall town or a small town railroad card would be good money for any place, just not desirable. Yeah, the railroad definitely adds a little bit to it, but I don't know what it is with North Dakota and South Dakota. Maybe I'm gonna check my theory of the population not having changed much in the last 100 years, so there's not really anybody left there to collect. Um, okay, let's see. Okay, let's see what North Dakota population is today. Yeah, I think, okay, this theory is correct again. So the North Dakota population in 1910 was 577,000. 1920 it was 646,000, and today the North Dakota population is only 796,000. So the population of North Dakota hasn't really grown at all in 100 years. So I think that's part of the reason why some states don't sell very well. And Iowa was another one that I mentioned a couple weeks ago. Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, and some northeastern states I don't really have good luck with either. Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. But I think my theory is states that have experienced tremendous growth in the last 100+ years have a lot better selling postcards than states that have not grown at all, which I think is true. Um, Ashley said, hi, what did I miss? I did, if you want to go back and watch the beginning, maybe at the end, I did show a postcard of the week of Kenmare, North Dakota. It was a neat one, and I still have the cat postcard, which I can show in a second. But the Kenmare, North Dakota one was a neat one. It was a train car, but on the railroad car, or on the negative, I think the photographer wrote 8 hours sleep, 8 hours work, 8 hours free time. So I think it was connected to the labor movement of the time, so I thought that one was pretty neat. I sold it for $50, but yeah, you can just go back and watch that one. I talked about my Space Cats postcard. I don't know if you requested one or not, Ashley, but unfortunately, the first batch got a little bit messed up, but the company's very nice. They're reprinting them for free for me since it was kind of their mistake. They put the gloss on the back of the card instead of the front, so I don't know if you can even really see it, but it's very glossy on the back and it's uncoated on the front, and I want it to be the opposite, of course, so people could write on the back, and then I would think I think it will look a lot better with the glossy on the front. But yeah, I have a ton of these. I'm probably just gonna, I don't know what I'll do with them. I'll probably put them in eBay orders eventually, but yeah, it's kind of a bummer to have all these boxes. I ordered 8,000 of them, so I have 8,000 of these now with the wrong coating on the front and back. Um, like I said, they are gonna make it up and send them to me for free, but or send me the other batch for free. But yeah, I have a bunch of boxes of them now. Nice sale, sounds interesting. Yeah, it was no, it was nobody's fault really because the images that I uploaded and I have worked with this company in the past and had them print postcards, and whenever I had them printed, I would just upload two images of the front and back and label one front and label the other one back, and I was like, yeah, I'm sure that's, fine. But what happened was the back image had a smaller number in front of it, so it was like 03 dash back and the front was like 04 dash front. So the computer put the back one first since like in alphabetical order, the back one would have been first, and there wasn't a human to check it, so they just got printed like that. So it wasn't really anybody's fault, but I'm really glad the company is making it up to me. Fartsack Jack said, I'll take either. I won't use it anyway. Yeah, I could send you this one, but I just think the other one will look so much better. I know a lot of people probably don't really care, but I just want it to look the best it can look, you know? Um, so yeah, I will send you the good version. I don't want you to think less of me for sending you an inferior cat postcard, space cat postcard. Yeah, it is definitely, yeah, it's definitely not maybe AI, just like computers. Because in the past, this company had a human look at every single order, and you would review a proof and approve the proof. And they changed their process, so now you don't have to have a proof, and they say they'll send your order faster if you don't do a proof. So I was like, oh, I don't need a proof. I know the images are right. So I checked the box that I don't need a proof, and then they didn't have a person review it. So yeah, then this happened. But yeah, I don't really care since they're making it up to me and reprinting them for me at no extra charge, which is really nice since it's not necessarily either of our faults. You could donate the wrong ones and write it off since you have replacements coming. Yeah, yeah. I don't know who I would. I don't know who I would donate 8,000 Space Cat postcards to though. If you have somebody in mind, let me know. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like I would get as much use out of them as anybody else, or more use out of them than anybody else, because they have my business name on the front and also my information on the back. So I don't want to give them to Goodwill. Who's going to buy them from Goodwill? I really like, I know I could donate them to Goodwill, and let's just say, or let's just suppose they put them out for sale on the floor or whatever, the display, what, the main area, the shopping area of Goodwill. Who is going to buy all these postcards with somebody else's business? It's like, I mean, it is a cool design. Don't get me wrong, but like it's my business. I don't think anybody else would want them. But yeah, I'll throw them in with other orders. Maybe I'll just keep a box beside me of the wrong ones and the right ones. And if I see a buyer that buys a car that, sent me a little bit lower of an offer than I liked, but I accepted it anyway, or maybe they sent me a rude message, I'll just send them one of the bad postcards, and then I'll send all the good buyers the good postcards. No, I'll just put them in with other orders. And yeah, they're not really. I mean, they're not the thinnest. They're, I don't know. I don't know. They're they're slightly thinner than like early 1900s postcards, I think. But yeah, I could use them as thickener. But yeah, yeah. If they were all like different, then sure somebody would want them. But list them as scrapbook supplies. Yeah, we'll just get a lot of artwork created with space cats now. And Mauseum, which that could be fine. Uh, use them as filler stiffeners and standard envelopes. Uh, Brad said, Daniel, speaking of postcards not being what you expect, do reproduction postcards always use the word reproduction? Is there a way to tell if the card you have is a reproduction of an earlier card? Yeah, there's a few different types of reproductions. Some postcards are reproductions in like earlier, like a lot of historical views around the early 1900s were reproduced in the 1950s to 1970s. So that's a little bit different than a modern reproduction since it's like a vintage reproduction. Oftentimes those will say whatever historical society on the back or whoever printed the cards. But there's not necessarily a way to tell with everyone. You kind of just have to handle a lot of postcards and know what to be looking for. Oftentimes, the reproduction postcards will be thinner. They'll usually say on it that or they'll have like a date it was printed or a year it was printed, or say that it's, from a historical society or something like that, as long as they're not trying to be deceiving or in any way, which most of them aren't. But yeah, there's not necessarily a way to tell with all of them. You just kind of know what to look for after a little while. And I don't think I could count on one hand the number of postcards I found that are reproductions that were printed to deceive somebody. Most of the time, they'll have a year on them, or yeah, like I said, like they'll say they're reprinted by or from somebody's collection or something like that. Nancy said my store was starting to have Regal sales. March was really good. Regal. Do you mean like royal sales? I think that's what Regal means. Like royalty. Regal. Okay, I'm just getting results from movie theaters. Regal definition. Being magnificent or dignified. Nice. So my store is starting to have magnificent or dignified sales. March was really good. Since 3rd of April, my store seems to have died. Saturday and Sunday, I did a 25% off for all postcards over 4 months old. Nothing, not one. eBay only gave me one postcard to send an offer. I heard someone else say their sales were down 60% last week. What is this? Yeah, I don't know. Did you change anything else recently, like a promoted ad rate or anything like that? My sales haven't really changed much from March to April. Maybe it's who was this up here that said they had sold so much in April? Maybe they're taking all your sales. Paul Beagle. Paul Beagle. Ask Paul Beagle what's going on because he sold over 4,000 already this month. So I think eBay is sending all of your sales to him. No, I don't know. I don't know. I know you do have to consistently list new inventory to keep getting sales, and if you go a few weeks without listing any or listing very little, then that could hurt your sales a lot. If you lowered a promoted rate or something like that, that could hurt your sales. But other than that, I mean, it's been pretty consistent for me. Just keep chugging along. Fart Sack Jack said, when my granny passed, she had 20 to 30,000 index cards. Why? I have no clue. Maybe for recipes. I know my grandma had a bunch of recipes in or she wrote a bunch of recipes down on index cards. But I don't know why you would need 20 to 30,000 unless she's planning on doing a lot of cooking. Ashley said a member of the San Jose, California Postcard Club is a middle school teacher. He encourages his class to make their own and also sends commercially printed postcards. I think his students would dig postcard cats. Oh, cool. Yeah, I had somebody recently that emailed me that was, I can't remember if they were a teacher or a professor, but they had they taught something like, what people would wear throughout the years. It was like I think it might have been related to dance, but it was like the dress that people would wear throughout the years. And they had a postcard album to show their students what people would wear throughout the years and how dress changed throughout the years. I thought that was really cool. And postcards are a great teaching tool. I think the students would dig postcard cats. Yeah, I could send them enough for everyone in the class, but unless he has 8,000 students, I don't know if he wants all the ones that I have. But yeah, everybody likes postcard cats, I think. I've never met somebody who didn't like postcard cats, at least. I just got notified that you're live. Nice. Just a little bit, 18 minutes late, but better late than never. Well, I guess 15 minutes because you made that comment 3 minutes ago. Regular sales, I cannot type or something changes them. Oh, my store was starting to have regular sales. Okay, that makes more sense. March was really good. Yeah, I would just ask if you've started listing much less, or if the quality of cards you're listing has changed, or if you've changed your eBay ad rate. Those are the three main things that I think of could improve or disimprove, hurt sales. Because I know usually when I go like a week without listing, I'll have to list like a maniac the next week just to get my store back in gear and to be like, to tell eBay I exist again. But I can't complain. So far this year has been really good. Fart Sack Jack says, I haven't listed postcards in forever, so I don't get a ton of sales. I always offer up to 5 more postcards, and I will ship for free. Works a lot of the times. Oh, do you mean like you give 5 postcards free to people? Yeah, that's a good deal you got going there. Papa Mohan really improving the site. Papa Mohan. Okay, eBay Mohan. Is that the CEO or something? Mohan Pat as the leader for eBay verticals? Maybe. Oh. Oh, okay. Wait. I just saw an article that said Mohan Pat was fired in 2022 amid refreshment of leadership team, so I guess he's not there anymore. I don't really know anything about eBay leadership. I don't even know who the CEO is. But yeah, there's an article here that says Mohan Pat. It's from April 2022 that said he was out in 2022. So maybe it's his fault that things are going bad. Oh, Neil Mohan. Okay. Neil Mohan. Oh, CEO of YouTube. Oh, okay. I didn't know that was the CEO of YouTube. I thought it was still Susan. Yeah, Susan. I can't pronounce her last name. Uh, oh, I see what you mean. Because Fartsack Jack didn't get a notification. Okay, I'm caught up now. No, I didn't. I didn't even know YouTube changed CEOs. I don't. I don't think much has changed, but uh, yeah. If you don't even know the CEO's name, maybe that's a good thing. I don't have any reason to really know any CEOs' names. No, if they buy one card, I'll ship five more for free. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, than giving them five free cards, because that would be quite a deal. Barbara says, howdy, folks. Welcome in, Barbara. Nancy said, I work off scheduled listings, so a mix of 4 to 6 items go up every day. Maybe 6 is the minimum I need. Yeah, and I would ask too what the total number of listings you have in your store is. Um, and it's really tough to get consistent income unless you have a lot of items in your store or unless you're listing a lot of items every single day. And just to give you my numbers, and I know I do this a lot more than any of you are looking to do it and make, I mean, I rely on it for income, so obviously a lot of you don't need that or want to spend that much time selling postcards, but I do have 28,000 and I try to get 400 to 500 up a week, um, which is 100 a day during the week. And with that, obviously, I get very consistent sales, about a little over like 20 to 25 sales per day. And the dollar amount varies, but $200 to $300 a day is usually at least where I'm at. And then some days are better. But yeah, I would say you might just need to get, I don't know how many listings you have live in your store, but it's probably that you need more listings. And it may have been that in March maybe you were listing a lot of stuff that people really wanted, and maybe in April you have a lot of New Hampshire postcards and North Dakota and South Dakota postcards. But no, I go through lulls like that too, because sometimes I'll get a really good buy and I'll have a lot of real photos to list, and then I'll have a crazy week like I did a couple weeks ago. And then some weeks, like this past week, I think I did, let me see what I did this past week. Because I didn't do a what sold video yesterday because I was just super busy. But let's see, performance, sales, and I'll just screen share. Why don't we do it? What sold here? Let's see. Performance and sales. There we go. So last week, unfortunately, you can't custom sort the last week. Or actually, I do weeks weird anyway. But Monday to Sunday is how I track my weeks. So yeah, it's been pretty consistent. You can see last week was down 6.8%, which is pretty much the same. 16, 23, 30 net. Yeah, 140 quantity sold, which is right at 20 per day. And then yeah, it's 395, 259. What is that? Okay, 2368 is averaging a little over 300 a day, but I mean, yeah, some days are close to 400, some days are, over 500, and some days are barely over 100, so but yeah, I think my sales have been pretty consistent so far this year. Uh And I think I have a pretty good idea of when my sales are going to go through a slow period, just based off the dollar amount of postcards I'm listing every single day. So some days, if I have like really good postcards that I'm listing, some days I will list $2,000 to $3,000 worth of postcards in a single day. And if that happens, I know it's going to be a pretty good day and probably a pretty good week if I'm listing more than one day. But like today, in the last few days, I've just been listing about $1,000 to $1,200 worth of postcards every day. So usually that means my sales are going to be more average just because I'm listing lower dollar cards during the week. Um, but yeah, I don't really get surprised with how my sales are anymore because I feel like I've gotten to know eBay pretty well over the last few years, and it doesn't really shock me anymore when something happens. I don't know, I think I have low expectations too, which helps. And uh, yeah, like my goal is to do at a minimum $200 a day in gross sales. And on a week I considered average, I did $300 last week. So I think keeping my expectations low, but also just listing a ton and having a ton of items up is what helps keep me sane. Brad said, would having an eBay store with postcards and other very different items like clothing and electronics affect sale of postcard or sales of postcards? I don't think so. Not really. I mean, I would definitely make categories in your store. So if somebody is interested in going to your store and wants to look at other postcards, they can just click on like a store category for postcards. But if as long as you have that, I don't think it would really affect your sales that much. The only time it would affect your sales is with or is for people browsing your store, and most people on eBay buy from either search or suggested items and never click the link to go to your store. So I don't think it would affect it that much. But I would just make sure to set up store categories for the different types of items you're selling. And a lot of sellers do sell a lot of postcards and a lot of other things too. And they don't really have any problem. I know Jackass Retro is the biggest one I can think of off the top of my head. But he sells a ton of postcards and a ton of other stuff. And actually, let me look at how Jackass has a store set up. Um, I think he has a postcard category, but I'm not sure. Let's see. No, maybe he doesn't have it as a featured category right now. Yeah, it looks like he does have featured categories for other things like records, belt buckles, books, more records. No, it's LPs and then 45s. But he doesn't have a category for postcards. But when you have, I mean, I know he has a ton of postcards up, so maybe he just has so many postcards that you don't really need a category for them if your store is overrun with postcards, but it's definitely helpful to at least get categories for some of the other main items you sell, like he does records and books and stuff, because those can get lost in the shuffle if you have so many postcards. So, yeah, I would say just use your store categories and set them at the top of your store so that when people visit your store, they can just click on what they want to see. Um, Nancy said, I have a little over 800 items finally, just over 500 postcards. Yeah, I would say it'll just, and I would say to to expect your sales to be more inconsistent until you get more items listed. And it's not that they're necessarily going to be lower or higher, they're just going to be more variable. Um, and that's just, yeah, the nature of having more items up is that your sales are more consistent. Like I do consistently around 20 sales per day because I have 28,000 listings, which is just, yeah. And I never thought I'd have that many postcard listings, but yeah, I would just try not to worry about it too much. I know it can seem concerning, but it really takes thousands and, if we're being honest, tens of thousands of postcard listings before you get consistent sales every single day. And you don't even need to list that many items. But you just have to understand that some days maybe you'll sell a lot and then some days you'll sell very little. So as long as you have that understanding, then you should be fine with it. But if you do want to get the consistent sales where you're selling like 5 or 10 every single day, then Yeah, it just takes listing more. When I started out, I think, I've tried to track it along the way. I think I've come to the conclusion that, and it's a little bit less than that now, but I sell something like one postcard per day for every 1,000 postcards listed in my store, and it's probably slightly less than that now. But I would say at least for getting your first few thousand, that's probably a good rule to go by of how things will go. Is like if you have 1,000 up, I would expect to sell one a day on average, but that, of course, means some days you'll sell three, some days you'll sell none, and some days you might sell seven, and then a couple days in a row you might sell zero. So, Brad said, thanks, Nancy. I'm trying to figure out if I would want or need two different stores. Yeah, I think as long as you do the category, or that's my opinion at least, but I don't sell anything else, so I'm probably not the person to ask. Farsack Jack said, does he even do lives anymore? He did one a couple months ago, and then I think he said he was really busy and that he was gonna maybe be back in a couple more months. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, he did. Wait, when was this? Oh, 3 years ago. I thought that said 3 days ago, and I was like, "There's no way he uploaded a video 3 days ago." His last live stream was 3 months ago, and I think in that he said that he was just really busy right now, and he was planning to stream more when he had more time, but um, yeah, he hasn't posted since then, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I liked watching his live streams every day. I'm sad that he hasn't streamed in 3 months, but if you're busy, I get it. Alex said, would you open or would you suggest opening multiple accounts for multiple types of similar items such as media, collectibles, etc.? Yeah, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, but I would say as long as you have the categories in your store, that you should be fine. And that's what other bigger sellers that I know do, but I'm no eBay expert, so and I don't sell more than postcards. I only list in one category, so I'm really not the person to ask. Farsack Jackson, I'm scrolling through your Illinois listings now. Yeah, I should have a pretty good bit of Illinois up. Apart from southern states, I'd say I probably get the most Illinois and Indiana, and Ohio too. But uh, yeah, I know I have a lot of Illinois postcards. Even Popeye's sales slow down when he doesn't list, or do when he doesn't list. I guess you meant slow down or don't do good. Yeah, it happens to everybody, even if you have. I was actually you've kind of just gotta write down what your sales are at certain points. I tried to do this, but it's more so like not written down and just in my head, which isn't as good because I forget. But I do remember that last year when we went on vacation for a week and I wasn't listing, I barely broke $500 in gross sales. And this year, when we went on vacation and I put my store in time away, I did over $1,000 in gross sales. So that made me feel really good. I would say, um, yeah, I would say probably what helps me the most is just comparing my sales to myself and not comparing it to anyone else. And I only use my own sales as a benchmark of how I'm doing. Like, if I'm doing as good as I was when I had this many listings, or if I'm doing as good as I did last week, or last month, or last year. So I really only compare my sales to my own sales, which I think is the way to do it. But Ashley said, Daniel, excellent job on your presentation of the postcard clubs about valuing and selling collections. Appreciate you agreeing to talk to us about it. The video should be up soon. Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't know if I'll watch it back. I was gonna say I'll watch it back, but I don't really want to watch myself talk about it again. Hearing myself once was enough. No, I'm glad you appreciated it. Hal asked me to do it, so I definitely can't say no to Hal, and I had a lot of fun putting together the presentation, and I hope that's helpful to people out there that are selling their collection or want to know what to do with it. I know I had several people email me after the Zoom presentation, and they had some more questions, and I was able to help them out, which is good. Because I know collectors, a lot of the times, don't know a lot. I mean, especially if they were big collectors several decades ago. A lot of them might know how the postcard world works now and what the best places are to sell their postcards. So hopefully that information helps them out. I know Clarissa said there's going to be a representative from an auction house. I think she said in May. I can't remember the exact date, but that'll be a really good one. I'll have to watch that one too. And I know I've bought from Potter and Potter before, but I think it's been a while. But I know they're a really good auction house, so that's a good way to sell a collection is to consign it to an auction house. Especially because you don't really have to do much work. Uh, I think they handle pretty much everything. They do take some of them take more fees than others, but for people that don't really want to do much work, consigning it to an auction house is pretty good. Was my daily routine for a couple years? Oh, to look through Illinois postcards, or oh no, you meant watch farts or not? Watch Jackass Retro. Sorry. That was like you spent a couple of years daily scrolling through Illinois postcards. I was gonna be like, I had no idea you were such a collector, but props to you because I do know bigger collectors that do that in Georgia, um, and some of them watch my videos or some videos at least, but I know one that says he checks new Georgia postcard listings every single day, so I think that's why I thought of that. But I was about to be really impressed, like every day. Wow, I don't even do that with my collecting interests. Alex said, "Fair enough. Thank you for the response." Yeah, I I've watched other people or other like YouTubers talk about this, and I don't know. I know I'm not an expert, but I think my line of thought is right because most eBay buyers now come from finding your items in search or like suggested listings when they're browsing another listing, and most of them aren't shopping through your store. And the only time having a lot of different multiple items mixed together or categories of items mixed together would hurt you is if they were browsing your store. And really, the only thing you would need to do to solve that is, yeah, create store categories with the categories that you wanted to highlight and the categories that you thought buyers would be interested in browsing your store for. Because there's going to be some categories where buyers, like, they're not going to care about coming back to your store. Like, if somebody's buying, I don't know, a phone and you have like a good price on a phone, they're not going to bookmark your store and be like, "Oh, I'm going to come back here and buy more phones." That just doesn't happen. But if you have collectibles, I mean stuff like records, I don't even know. I feel like I do this where I try to think of different categories of collectibles and I can never actually think of anything, even though I know a lot. I don't know. Records, Hot Wheels cars. I was going to say yarn. I don't know why. I don't even know if people collect yarn. I don't think so. But if you have different categories of collectibles, then people are much more likely to come back to your store and, shop your other items and see what else you have for sale. So as long as you have different categories for the items like that, I think it would be fine. Farsack Jack said, "Why would you, Alex? Unless you have thousands and thousands of collectibles, you get 10,000 listings with a basic store." Yeah, I think it's kind of just. I mean, I could see it being a benefit if you get a store and you have almost 60,000 listings, which, or at least in the postcard category, is the highest you can get with the premium store. Then getting another store would be the cheapest way to do it, actually. But yeah, I think it would be, for the most part, I think it would be paying unnecessary fees, but I don't know. Maybe somebody knows better than I or has a good reason for getting another store. Nancy said, "I have about 12 RPPCs of the largest trees in Northern California, Redwood Highway, Big Tree Park. Would you list at once, maybe in 2 to 3 days, or more so slowly put them up over time?" I always just do everything like that all at once, and I don't know if that's a good way to do it or a bad way to do it, but I do know a lot of sellers that do auctions. If they're doing a lot of cards from the same state or same town, they'll have them all end at the same time, and I think there's something to that. I don't know if it matters as much with fixed price listings because they're probably going to see them eventually anyway. The only time I would think it might hurt you to put them all up at once is if they're all like very similar or the same card. And if you put those all up at once, then a buyer might not be interested, or they might buy one and then just not be interested in the rest, or you might flood the market or whatever. But if they're all like different views, then I would just put them up all at once or in 2 to 3 days or whatever. Nancy said my only repeat buyers are Postcard. Yeah, I have a lot of repeat Postcard buyers. I try to, um, when I'm shipping out orders every day, I try to, pick up on if I'm seeing a familiar username or name. But I have some buyers that have been buying from me since I started selling in 2021. And it's really cool to have that because I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know any other type of. I'm sure there are stuff you can sell on eBay that has these types of buyers, but I personally haven't experienced any because I only sell postcards. But no, it's really cool that, and I'm sure some of the older sellers that have been on eBay for even longer than I have buyers that have been shopping with them for decades. So yeah, it's a really cool thing about the postcard world that there are buyers. I mean, it's not the majority for sure, but there are buyers who will bookmark your store and will come back to your store to see what you have for sale because they like buying from you and they like the postcards that you have for sale, which is really nice. Roberta said, nice to see you on live stream. Sound quality is great. Nice. Always good to hear. I should be getting my computer hardwired in soon, which now it doesn't sound like it's necessary, but I am getting a 2-for-1 deal. I'm having them hardwire my video game room too, so even if the computer doesn't really matter anymore, the decreased lag we're going to experience gaming will definitely be worth it. Fartsack Jack, postcards and hats are my only repeat buyers. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I know some hats can sell really well, but that's cool. Alex said, do you believe the tariffs will affect the postcard category? Oh, yeah, definitely. Not, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? They're not going to affect the postcard category because there will be tariffs on postcards. I mean, there will be some if the postcards are maybe like shipping from overseas, I guess. But obviously, most of us are in, or most of us that are in the U.S. are only selling postcards we got in the U.S. and we're not buying them from other countries for the most part. So they're not really going to affect us buying inventory or our buyers buying inventory from us. But I think it will definitely, if they go into effect, or I don't, they're already into effect. If they stay in effect for a long time and keep going up or whatever, I think it will definitely affect it because people spend money on so much stuff that's being tariffed now, and they're gonna have to just try to afford other stuff. So I think that will be how it affects it, and not because postcards themselves really are not subject to tariffs just because of the nature of postcards. But yeah, people will definitely, I think, be buying less postcards if the other goods that they're buying, they have to pay a ton more for it. It just makes sense that, some goods are way more important to people than postcards. And yeah, I think that's all there's to say about that. Is there some new and upcoming card categories you are seeing to be more collectible? Do you mean postcards or like cards in general? I know sports cards are really popular right now. Pokemon cards. I assume you meant other categories of postcards though. But I don't. I know Halloween are always really popular. Yeah, she said postcard categories down there. Um, Continental cards are getting more and more popular. I am listing and selling more and more Continental cards. But as far as that, I would say not really any specific categories that I've noticed. There are always some states that get better and worse over time as like the population changes. I think Texas is one over the last 20 years that has gotten maybe better as a state as a lot of people move to Texas, and then maybe Florida because a lot of older people move to Florida. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but The major thing I notice is newer cards becoming collectible that people wouldn't have thought to save 20 or 30 years ago. Like, I've sold postcards from the 90s for $15 to $20. I've sold Continental cards for $40 to $50. Those are the big ones I've noticed that's a shift in kind of like a new and upcoming category in postcards, I guess. Like I sold this one a few months ago that was of a coffee shop in Oregon, I think. And I want to say it had a website on the back, so it was maybe from the early 2000s, and I sold that one for $20. And that's a card that like 20 years ago nobody would have ever thought to have saved it, but I think it was a postcard they sent out to people that lived within a certain radius of the coffee shop when they were opening. And then a lot of people just said, oh, this is an ad, and then tossed it out or didn't save it. So now it's like hard to find, and I sold it for $20. So I think that will keep happening with postcards that are being produced today as well. And I think I haven't noticed any categories specifically that have gotten much more popular. I'm sure there are some, I know paper moons in the last few years have gotten a lot more popular, but or maybe like last 5 to 10 years have gotten a lot more popular. But other than that, I can't think of any like specific postcard categories that have gotten significantly more popular. Jay Barson said, I'm in Canada and a major eBay frustration is eBay global shipping. A $5 postcard could end up costing up to $50 to mail. Yeah, I wish there was an easier way to ship things internationally, but there's really not in the US. You can send stuff with a stamp, but the letter of the law says you cannot send merchandise, which is any product that somebody has bought online, with a stamp. So I don't send any postcards with stamps. I will only send them with eBay International Shipping, and I have checked rates for other services before, and it's about the same as eBay International Shipping. So it's unfortunate, but there's just not really a good option unless you want to. And I know that's not really enforced, but I'm running a business and I'm not trying to break any laws. Um, and there's no really good option for me shipping out of the country. Also, I will probably not buy cards from U.S. sellers if there are tariffs on them. Yeah, I know a lot of sellers. Some sellers sell out of the country a lot more than others, but I mean, with every country pretty much being subject to some tariff, I know they're going to do a lot of reciprocal tariffs. So there's just going to be a ton of tariffs on everything. I don't sell a lot of postcards outside to people outside of the US, but sellers that do will probably notice a sharp decline in sales. If they haven't already, because I know already a lot of countries are, if not tariffing, boycotting U.S. goods. Pokemon cards go crazy. Yeah, yeah, I don't have any myself, but I've seen videos and heard stories. Texas is also fast becoming the economic center of the U.S. Yeah, it's a very fast-growing state. It's kind of like how California in the 90s, or maybe earlier than that, but Silicon Valley in California was like the place to be 20 to 30 years ago, and then now it's becoming like Austin and Dallas, I feel like. So a lot of postcards from Texas are doing better than they would have as the state is growing, and that happens with, a ton of other states too that have growing populations. Nancy said, I wondered if the effect of tariffs on the economy and people's thinking about a recession is why my store died. I mean, I'm sure it didn't help. With that, I was just opening up my phone to check the stock market today. Oh, only down 2% today. What a great day for the stock market. No, it definitely had an effect. I'm sure I didn't notice a huge effect in my store, so I don't know if you can say it had a huge effect. It's hard to say that. eBay is really the only one who would be able to say that. Well, actually, what am I saying? We can go to Terapeak and look at postcard sales. So we can look and see if, and I'll share my screen here in a minute, but um, I don't really know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I don't know if people are already spending less money or if they're planning to spend less money or what's going on, but I do know that tariffs are not good for people who are selling products, which is just common sense. Let's see, postcard. I can tell. I'm going to share my screen in a second, but I'm just going to go to the postcard category, and I can look at how many postcards have been selling every single day, just to see if the postcard category has been affected. Let's see. I'll just go to the last 90 days. Okay, let me lock that. There we go. Okay, here, let me share. Present, share screen. Okay, so this is eBay postcard sales over the last 90 days. This is average sold price, which there's, I mean, that it might as well just be a flat line. There's variations day by day. And I think it actually is on, I want to say it's on Sundays. Yeah. Yeah, the dips are always on Sundays when the 99-cent auctions end, which is kind of funny to see. But this is dollar price sold, which is pretty much a flat line. This is quantity sold per day, so it does look like postcard sales are declining a little bit. If we look at the trend line, it's about, I don't know. It is going down though, slightly. So it's going down maybe from just under 5,000 to maybe 4,200 average per day. But yeah, you can tell because at the low points in like January, we were still above 4,000 a day in January. But yeah, recently we've had days that are 3,700, 3,800, 3,800 again. So yeah, I would say overall, maybe postcard sales have gone down a little bit in this year, but I don't think that's anything out of the ordinary because from my understanding, I think and I can just look at the last 3 years here. From when I've researched this in the past, January is usually the best month for postcards anyway, so. Oh, look at that. This actually is a really comforting chart. Wow. Actually, I am really surprised by this. I hadn't checked these numbers in a while. I believe this is weekly postcard sales. Let me see. Yeah. Yeah, so actually I would say the long-term trend looks pretty good. Because if we go over the last 3 years, it's gone from an average of roughly 27,000 per day to now, weekly average. Did I say daily or weekly? Weekly average of about 27,000 per week. To now we're at about 32,000 per week. So yeah, I would say that the postcard category has been growing over the last 3 years, not quickly, slow and steady, but that's encouraging to see. And I don't know if there's a way to look at all of eBay. I don't think I can look at all of eBay. I saw your comment. Let me see if I can put it up. What about total eBay sales? You can look at, if you want to look at that, eBay is publicly traded, so they do. I don't know what day of the quarter they do it, but they report quarterly profits and earnings and stuff. So you can look up like shareholder stuff about eBay if you want to know that. I don't think I can do that with product research here, but you can look at certain categories and yeah, that's really cool. Postcard listing for envelope shipping. And yeah, a lot of these sellers that sell 50 postcards do really well. So maybe I should create average shipping cost $6.44. Maybe I should create a listing and just sell a lot of postcards in bulk that way. That's about 25 cents a card, which isn't bad. And this person selling 125 random has sold 147 lots at $37 each, which is what, about 30 cents a card? That's pretty good. I'm just looking at I think it's sorting by total sold, or I don't even know what it's sorting by here. But yeah, I would say overall the trends in postcard sales are pretty good. And um, yeah, I think it's been a really good start to the year. And this chart just reinforces that. The low week we had was the week of Christmas, which makes sense, obviously. But yeah, other than that, sales overall have been steadily growing over the last 3 years. So I would say there's really no data to suggest that people are buying less postcards. That could change, of course, and it might change over the next few months. Nobody really knows for sure, but I would say most variations are probably just caused by just random variations. Like some weeks your sales will be down, some weeks they'll be up, and there's not really any rhyme or reason to it. And the more that you list, the more consistent your sales will be, just because the greater items you have up, the more consistent, yeah, the number you sell will be. Because if you look at the postcard category, you can think of it as one big seller, which is eBay, selling postcards. And the eBay sales are very consistent because there's what, millions of postcards up? Jay Barson said, merchandise is fine for eBay global shipping. Postcards are a problem as they can come by regular mail. They can't legally come by regular mail. I know people ship them by regular mail, but the letter of the law in the United States is that you cannot ship any merchandise that was bought with a stamp. So, yeah. You can't. Yeah, I don't ship postcards by regular mail. I do have people ask me. And usually, when I tell them I'm not willing to break the law to send you a $5 postcard or whatever, they usually understand. But yeah, I know a lot of people do, and they can probably keep doing that, and they'll have no repercussions. But I do not want to break any laws with my business. Roberta said, on the flip side, people may buy collectibles as an investment if they feel stocks aren't great. Yeah, and it all depends on the audience too, or the buyer market. So it yeah it on the one hand, a lot of the people that buy postcards have fixed incomes, um, like Social Security. So if prices go up for other things that they spend money on, they won't have a lot of money to spend on postcards. But also, on the other hand, a lot of the people that buy postcards don't have, a mortgage or a car payment, or they don't have a lot of other expenses that other people do. So I don't really know exactly. We'll just have to wait and see what'll happen. I don't really know. I would think though, if tariffs affect a lot of what people purchase every day, then they would just have to spend less on postcards, because I don't know, that it would just cause a huge amount of inflation if tariffs affect what people. I mean, I know they're going to affect a lot of the products people buy every day, but yeah, I guess it remains to be seen exactly how that will affect the economy. Based on what the stock market has done over the last week, people that professionally trade think it's going to be very bad for the economy, but yeah, we'll just wait and see. Um, Makes sense since this is a slower season. Yeah, I mean, looking back, I haven't done this in a little while, but I think it's usually around March every year where it starts to slow down, and then it's really not until the fall where it starts to pick back up. At least that's my understanding from when I've looked at postcard sales in previous years for eBay and tried to, see if there's a trend to it. But I think that's right. And I've had other buyers tell me that, they shop more when it's cold outside and they can't do anything. And in general, people just shop more during the winter, I think, because there's the holidays, but also the weather's not as good, so you're inside more. Great to look at these numbers. Very encouraging. Yeah, it was. I know when I checked it last time, I've looked at the 3-year trend every now and then, and I remember checking it a couple years ago, and the 3-year trend was just flat, and maybe even slightly tilted negative a little bit, but basically flat. So yeah, it's definitely a stronger uptrend than it has been in previous years, which is always good to see as someone who sells postcards. Alex said, this would be nice for grocery prices as we export like 80% of our produce. Yeah, I know we import a ton of groceries too. I mean, a ton of groceries are produced in the States, of course, but I used to work in a grocery store and I know how much stuff we get from other countries. So I don't even know what all is exempt, and I haven't even researched it that much. But uh, personally and selfishly, the main thing I'm concerned about with tariffs right now is the Nintendo Switch 2 because I was really looking forward to buying it, and if it gets a lot more expensive, that's going to be a huge bummer. And I hope it does not. I was already bummed enough when they announced the other day that pre-orders would not be opening tomorrow because of tariffs. Uh, and yeah, hopefully, I know there's a lot more important things that people need to purchase that are being affected, but that was the biggest one for me that I thought of. And yeah, let me see. Are tariffs being implemented on groceries? Because I don't know what exemptions there have been, or let's see. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't really look like groceries are exempt from tariffs, and an analysis says that about half of the products you buy at the grocery store will be affected by tariffs, whether it's either the entire product or portions of the product. So, yeah, that would, I mean, if they, right, I don't know, I don't think they've taken full effect right now, just because a lot of the stock that stores are selling, they've probably gotten in before the tariffs. When do tariffs take effect? Okay. But yeah, they are in effect, but I don't know if all of them have trickled down to the consumer yet because, and this is one trickle down where it will definitely trickle down to the consumer because, yeah, you'll be damned if companies are making less profits. And you better believe they're going to be doing everything they can to keep the same profit margins they have before. Yeah, so let's see. Oh, okay, actually, it looks like a lot of tariffs take effect tonight, so woohoo. uh, okay, the 10% tariff on all countries took effect April 5th. Um, the reciprocal higher tariff on other countries will take effect tonight at midnight. But yeah, I don't think, since it's so recent, I don't think a lot of consumers have seen the impact yet because the stock that stores are selling is still the stock that wasn't subject to tariffs. But once they're selling the products that have been subject to tariffs, you better believe prices are going to go through the roof. Um, Unfortunately. I'm trying to think of other things I need to buy that would be tariffed. The only thing I can think of is a Switch 2. I know groceries are going to be a lot more. I don't really buy that much stuff. I mean, it's really just postcards and video games, which the postcards aren't going to be affected because I buy them all in the US, and the video games are all going to be affected. So, uh, well, I hope you get your Switch 2. Yeah, it is a shame. There are more important things, but I was really excited about it. And still am a little bit, but it's a bummer. Nancy said, I just read the Canadians who started selling red and white Make America Go Away hats are doing really well with a surprising number of them to global buyers. Yeah, who really, that lives in a different country right now, has fond feelings towards America? I don't really know any country that would have like positive feelings at this moment towards America. Like none, just because pretty much all of them were subject to tariffs. Even countries that didn't have any people are subject to tariffs. Uh, so yeah, it's great being in this country. The tariffs came at such an inopportune, or shame that the tariffs came at such an inopportune time. Yeah, yeah, they really screwed Nintendo. Nintendo's been waiting to release the Switch 2 for like 5 years, and then as soon as they announce it, they're like, yeah, we're putting a shit ton of tariffs on every country that you got the raw materials from to make this thing. And they're like, shit, what are we going to do now? And I don't think they've even said what the price is going to be anymore. Already, when it was $450, people were thinking it was a lot, but Let's see. Let's see if they've announced the price yet. Nintendo Switch 2 price in the U.S. No. Oh, Nintendo. I didn't type in 2. uh. Yeah, I don't see any information about how much it will be yet. I've been keeping a close eye out. If it's still $450, that's going to be a miracle. I'm going to feel, honestly, a little bit bad for Nintendo if they still charge $450 for it, because I'm pretty sure that means they're going to be losing money in the U.S. Unless they get like an exemption or something. A special Nintendo exemption. Carol said your eBay account will be dinged if you have a store and ship by envelope and stamps. That too, I think they maybe do calculate if you're a top rated plus seller differently for international orders. I don't know if that's for sure the case, but yeah, eBay likes for everything to have tracking. And if you ship untracked, I know some postcard sellers still ship untracked in the US, which just shows how much trust there is in the postcard category, because I don't think really there are, I know there are problem buyers every now and then, but for the most part, sellers that ship via stamp in the US don't have any problems, and yeah, have their buyers receive their stuff and gets to them in a timely manner. I do ship, like when I'm just sending a friend a postcard or something, I'll use stamps for that, but yeah, I would never, since we have the standard envelope, I would never ship eBay orders with a stamp. And I haven't even looked up to see if you can send merchandise in the US with a stamp, since I've never considered doing it. Can you send, oh goodness, I unmuted myself. Okay. Can you send merchandise within the US with a stamp? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So within the US, you can send merchandise with a stamp, which is good to know. So yeah, if they ever got rid of standard envelope, then I guess I would send everything with a stamp. But yeah, Alex said, not gonna lie, I love my local post office, but I would not trust sending an order without tracking. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the value. If it's a like an under $20 postcard, I would be fine with sending it without tracking, but if it's a more expensive postcard, definitely at least tracking. And if it's a really expensive postcard, I add full insurance and pay for extra insurance. For the recent order I had that ended up being $1,200 total, yeah, I insured that one for the full value of $1,200, even though it cost me like $20 extra out of pocket, because I was not going to let anything happen to that $1,200. But no, I was thinking about all the postcards that I've ordered online, and a lot of the, like individual postcards. A lot I used to order a lot from Del Camp, which unfortunately now is non-operational in the state of Georgia. But when I ordered from Del Camp, most of the sellers would ship with a stamp, and whether they were in the U.S. or internationally, they would just ship with a stamp in an envelope. And I placed probably hundreds of orders on Del Camp for individual postcards, and only one of them did I not receive. And I think the seller actually might have lost that postcard because I'd ordered it like right after I ordered another one from them, and I think something happened to that one that wasn't the fault of the postal service. But yeah, the mail is rarely ever gets lost in my experience, but I know it depends on what part of the country you're in, and you know, if you personally have trouble with it, then I definitely believe you. But for me, I've had nothing but good experiences with mail arriving. Now, the time in which it takes to arrive is a different story, because a lot of my packages take over a week to arrive, which isn't the best, but usually I know it's coming, you know. I will probably be getting off here in just a second, everybody. I'm going to try to, I don't know, stay on an hour, hour and a half. But I'll stay in the chat for a minute or two longer, Anthony. Answer any questions that linger in. And go think about, you know, dream about the Nintendo Switch 2. Roberta said, I have gotten several orders of postcards purchased on eBay from foreign sellers. They put a stamp on and done. Yeah, I don't know what. I'm sure other countries have different laws and regulations. I only know in the US it's against the law to send merchandise out of the country with a stamp because of like the customs declarations and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of foreign sellers do just ship with a stamp. Or some countries have cheaper methods of sending with tracking. I know one seller in Germany that I buy from can send a tracked little parcel to me that's only $4 to go from Germany to the US. And we don't have any options like here that I know of, unfortunately. Nancy said, thank you, Daniel, for tipping a video a few months back to immediately give buyer review. I started getting a lot more reviews now and have a long list of 100% positive reviews. I had few reviews before. Yeah, I think everybody, especially in the postcard category, should set up automatic feedback, especially if you plan on listing a lot more and selling a lot of postcards, because it's almost impossible for you to keep up with and leave feedback for every single buyer. So I just set it up to automatically leave feedback to a buyer once they purchase and pay for an item, and I've had I've never had a negative feedback that wasn't removed by eBay. The only negative feedbacks I had were people complaining about shipping time, and that's an easy one to get removed as long as you ship the item in the time that you said you would. But I leave feedback for buyers first, and I have for over 20,000 transactions, and I've never had a single negative feedback, so not get removed. So I think everybody should be automatically leaving feedback. All right, I'm gonna go drink some water and refresh my throat. Thank you everyone for joining me today. I will hopefully, I think I should have time next Monday to make a what sold video. If not, I'll be back with a live stream again Tuesday. Thank you for everyone who came in today, and I hope you have a great week. See you next week.